The universe was full of powerful empires, but none had ever worried about the small blue planet called Earth. For thousands of years the great alien civilizations had ignored it, calling humans too young and too weak to matter. In the endless maps of the galaxy, Earth was marked as nothing more than a primitive world. But everything was about to change. In the dark of space, the alien empire sent a scout fleet to observe humans closely. Their leaders wanted proof that Earth was no danger. The scouts expected to see fragile ships and basic rockets. They expected to laugh at human weapons and call them toys. But what they found near the edge of the solar system was something they could not explain. It began with whispers in the command ship. The alien commander, a tall being with silver eyes, watched his screens carefully. Strange signals came from the far side of Jupiter. The signals were too large, too organized, too strong to be natural. His officers scanned again and again, but the results stayed the same. Something was hiding there, something massive. The commander frowned. "This cannot be right," he said in a sharp voice. "Humans should not have the technology to build ships this size. Not yet. Not for another 1,000 years. His crew looked at each other nervously. They had seen human rockets. They had studied Earth's satellites. None of it was impressive. None of it was dangerous. But this was different. The signals came from deep shadows, hidden behind rocks and asteroids. At first they thought it was just noise, but then the radar drew clear shapes, lines too straight, forms too sharp. It was metal. It was artificial. It was a fleet. The aliens did not believe their own eyes. "Perhaps it is debris," one officer said quickly. But his voice was shaking. Another tried to explain, "Maybe humans found alien junk and are storing it there." The commander stayed silent, his eyes locked on the screen. He had fought many wars. He knew what he was looking at. These were not ruins. These were warships. And they were awake. The fleet moved slowly at first, like giants stretching after a long sleep. Dark hulls reflected no light. Strange engines glowed with power the aliens did not recognize. There was no chatter on their radios, no signals of communication. The human ships were completely silent, like predators watching their prey. The alien commander felt a cold wave rush through him. Fear. For the first time in his long career, he felt it. "Send a message to the council," he ordered. "Humans have built something they should not be able to build." His crew obeyed, but their hands trembled. Suddenly, one of the screens flashed. A new signal came directly from Earth, encoded in simple patterns. It was not a warning, not a request, but a command. The message said, "Leave our home, or see our true strength." The bridge went silent. The aliens stared at each other in disbelief. How could humans speak with such confidence? How could they dare to threaten the Empire? The commander clenched his fists. His empire ruled hundreds of worlds. They had destroyed civilizations far older than Earth. But now a small human voice had told them to leave. It made no sense. And yet, the warships hiding near Jupiter were real. The aliens could see their massive shapes turning slowly, their cannons glowing faintly in the dark. The commander's second officer swallowed hard. "They should not exist," he whispered. "No humans should have this power." The commander gave no reply. He could not admit it, but deep inside he agreed. Something had happened on Earth, something that changed the path of human destiny. They were no longer a primitive race. They had crossed a line they were never meant to cross. Outside the ship, the stars seemed colder. The alien scouts realized they had uncovered a secret too large to contain. And as the human warships turned their silent guns toward them, the commander understood one terrible truth: the galaxy had underestimated humanity. The alien scout fleet held position near Jupiter, but every second felt heavier than the last. The commander stood still, his silver eyes locked on the giant dark shapes hidden between the asteroids. He could not believe what his own screens were showing. The humans had ships, massive ships, that should not exist. Their Empire's Science Council had said humans were centuries away from building even simple warships. Yet here they were, silent giants of steel, crouched in the shadows like hunters. The commander's crew tried to explain it away. Some said they were abandoned wrecks. Others insisted they were mining stations or cargo hulks. But deep in their hearts, all of them knew the truth. Warships. Human warships. The commander finally spoke. His voice was low, but it carried fear. Run a deep scan. I want every detail. Engines, weapons, energy signatures. I want to know what we are facing. The crew obeyed, their fingers dancing across glowing controls. For a long moment there was only silence, then the screens filled with data. What the scan revealed made even the commander's blood run cold. The ships were unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. Their hulls were layered with heavy armor, black as void, absorbing almost every radar signal. Their engines pulsed with strange energy patterns, not like human fusion drives. They were silent, efficient, deadly. And their weapons? Giant cannons lined their flanks, cannons that seemed far too large for a world like Earth to design. The commander whispered, "This is impossible." One of his officers shook his head in disbelief. "Commander, these weapons, they read as energy lances, but the output is higher than anything in our fleets. If fired, they could tear through our cruisers in seconds." The crew fell silent. No one dared to speak further. In the shadows, the human ships stirred. Slowly, their titanic bodies shifted, like predators stretching after a long slumber. No words, no signals, only movement. The alien crew felt as though the humans were watching them. The commander knew the Empire's arrogance had blinded them. They had dismissed humanity as a primitive race, but now that illusion was shattered. How did they build these? He muttered to himself. He thought of Earth's small cities, their fragile planes, their old rockets struggling to reach the edge of their atmosphere. None of it matched what he was seeing now. The officer at the sensor station cleared his throat nervously. "Sir, there is something else. The technology does not look fully human. Some parts are different. Older. Maybe alien." The commander turned sharply. "Explain." The officer pulled up images, showing strange patterns on the warship hulls, symbols burned into the black steel. "These designs, they are not human language. They look like ancient code. As if humans found something and rebuilt it." The commander froze. He had heard old legends, stories of ancient races that vanished before the Empire rose. Could it be true? Did humans find relics from a forgotten civilization? And if so, how much did they learn? His thoughts were broken by a sudden change on the screen. One of the massive warships turned fully toward the scout fleet. Its guns lit faintly with blue energy. The commander's chest tightened. He had fought in dozens of battles, but never had he felt this much dread. "Maintain position," he ordered, though his voice trembled. The crew obeyed, but their eyes showed the same fear. Seconds stretched like hours. Then, a light flickered inside the command ship. A message had arrived. Not from the Empire. Not from the fleet. From Earth. The humans had sent another signal, stronger than before, clear and sharp. The message was short, but it struck like a blade. "Leave now. This is your final warning." The commander felt anger rising, but it was swallowed by something stronger, uncertainty. He looked at the dark ships, their glowing cannons, their silent promise of destruction. His empire had crushed 100 worlds. Yet here he was, facing a species they had mocked, and he was not sure if victory was possible. His second officer leaned closer and whispered, "Sir, if they can destroy us, imagine what will happen if the Council learns we hesitated. They will call us cowards." The commander clenched his jaw. He was trapped between fear of the unknown and fear of his own leaders. He had to choose. "Prepare a warning volley," he ordered finally. The alien fleet adjusted their weapons, charging small blasts of plasma fire. The commander hoped it would scare the humans, show them who truly ruled the stars. The volley fired, streaks of bright plasma cutting through the dark void. They struck near the human fleet, exploding in flashes of light. No ship was hit, but the message was clear: the Empire would not retreat. For a moment, there was silence. Then the shadows moved. One of the human warships powered its cannons. A single beam of energy erupted, bright and clean, faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. It crossed the void and struck an alien cruiser. In less than a second, the cruiser was gone, cut apart, turned to debris. The alien crew gasped in horror. One shot. One ship destroyed. The commander's hands shook as he gripped the rail. This is beyond us," he whispered. His crew looked at him for orders, their faces pale with fear. He wanted to retreat, but he could not show weakness. "Hold position," he said, though his voice cracked. On the screens, the warships glowed brighter. They did not move closer, but their message was clear. The aliens had stepped into a trap they could not escape. The commander knew the council would demand answers, but none of them would make sense. Humans were not supposed to have this power. Yet somehow, against every law of science, they did. The commander closed his eyes for a moment. He understood one thing now. Humanity had found something hidden, something ancient, something that was never meant for them. And they had made it their own. As the warships floated in silence, the alien crew felt as though they were staring into the future. A future where humans were no longer weak, no longer prey, but predators waiting in the dark. The commander opened his eyes and gave his final order for the moment. "Record everything. Every detail. If we survive, the council must know. Humanity is not what we thought. Humanity has changed." Outside, the giant ships remained still, but their presence pressed on every alien heart like a weight too heavy to carry. And in that silence, one terrifying truth echoed through the commander's mind. The galaxy had made a mistake. They had underestimated humans. The alien fleet floated in uneasy silence, their glowing weapons pointed toward the black warships hidden in the asteroid field. The commander could feel the fear in his crew. Their hands shook at the controls, their voices low, their eyes locked on the giant shapes in the dark. They had never seen anything like this before. Humanity was not supposed to have ships like these. Humanity was not supposed to stand against the Empire. And yet, here they were. The first warning volley from the aliens had done nothing. The humans had not moved. They had not answered. They had simply turned their silent warships, and in one terrifying instant, a single human blast had erased an alien cruiser from existence. One shot, one kill. The commander's heart pounded in his chest. His empire had fought many wars, but never had he seen a weapon so precise, so devastating. His crew looked to him for orders. They wanted to run, to escape the trap, but he knew retreat would be called cowardice. The Empire did not forgive fear. And yet, as he stared at the glowing cannons of the human warships, he realized a new truth. The Empire's power was no longer certain. For the first time in centuries, the balance of the galaxy was shifting. The commander raised his hand. "Prepare a second volley. This time, target the lead ship. Show them we are not afraid." His crew obeyed reluctantly. Plasma cannons charged, their humming filling the bridge. The commander could see sweat on the faces of his officers. They knew what was coming. When the order was given, the fleet fired. Bright plasma bolts cut through the void, striking directly at the massive shadow of the lead human warship. Explosions flared against its hull, but when the light faded, the ship still stood. Its armor had absorbed the blasts. Not a scratch. Not a mark. The alien crew gasped. It was impossible. No material should withstand that kind of firepower. And yet, the warship remained untouched. Then the silence ended. The humans answered. A sudden pulse of blue light flared across the black hulls. Then, 3 beams erupted, each one brighter and sharper than any weapon the aliens had ever seen. They struck the Empire's ships like knives through paper. 3 alien cruisers were destroyed instantly, torn apart without a chance to defend. Shock filled the alien bridge. Officers cried out, some dropped to their knees, others froze in terror. The commander gripped the rail, his body shaking. He had lost 3 ships in less than 5 seconds. Never in his long career had he seen such destruction. The humans had not spoken, had not negotiated, had not even revealed their faces. They had simply answered fire with fire, and proved they were stronger. Panic spread across the alien fleet. Pilots shouted for retreat, officers begged for orders. The commander felt the weight of his empire pressing on his chest. If they fled, the council would punish them. If they stayed, the humans might destroy them all. For the first time, the Empire's iron grip on the galaxy felt fragile. The commander slammed his fist against the rail. Hold formation. We are the Empire. We do not fear primitives. But his words sounded hollow, even to himself. The humans were no longer primitives. They were predators. Outside, the giant black ships began to advance. Their movements were slow, deliberate, unstoppable. The void itself seemed to bend around them. Alien officers scrambled to launch fighters, small ships meant to swarm and overwhelm. Swarms of alien craft shot forward, darting toward the human warships. For a moment, it looked like the tide might turn. But then the humans unleashed another weapon. From the sides of the warships, clouds of glowing drones emerged. They moved like a storm, fast and precise, tearing through the alien fighters before they could even fire. Explosions lit the darkness as one fighter after another was destroyed. The alien fleet watched in horror as their swarm was wiped out in less than a minute. "Impossible," an officer whispered. "They fight like they have been preparing for centuries." The commander stared at the chaos, his mind racing. How could humans have built this? Where did they find the knowledge? And most terrifying of all, how much more were they hiding? Another human blast fired, another alien ship gone. The fleet was falling apart. The commander finally understood. This was not a simple battle. This was a demonstration. Humanity was showing the Empire what they had become. The message was not just for him. It was for the entire galaxy. The commander's comms officer suddenly shouted, "Sir!" A transmission from the human fleet. The commander's heart stopped. He had expected silence, but now, the humans would speak. The message filled the bridge. A voice, human, calm but cold, echoed through the speakers. "We warned you. This is our home. Leave now, or be destroyed." The crew froze. The words were simple, but they carried weight heavier than any weapon. The commander's silver eyes narrowed. He could feel his pride battling against his fear. The Empire did not retreat from lesser species. But as he looked at the wreckage of his ships, as he watched the black warships advancing without mercy, he knew the truth. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. His second officer whispered urgently, "Commander, if we stay, we will all die." The commander did not answer at once. His pride wanted to fight, but his survival instinct screamed louder. He gave a single order. "Signal retreat." The remaining alien ships began to pull back, engines flaring as they turned away from the humans. But even as they fled, the commander knew this was not over. The humans had shown only a glimpse of their power. And if they could build warships like these, if they could harness weapons beyond the Empire's science, then the future was clear. Humanity was no longer weak. Humanity was no longer prey. They were rising, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. As the alien fleet limped away, broken and humiliated, the commander made a silent vow. The council would hear of this. They would learn that Earth had unleashed warships that should not exist. And they would fear, as he now feared, what humanity would do next. The alien fleet retreated into the blackness of space, limping and broken, their pride shattered by the impossible power of human warships. But the questions remained heavy in the commander's mind. How had humans created such weapons? How could a young species, barely learning to leave their homeworld, build warships stronger than anything the Empire possessed? The commander reported everything to the council, and his words spread like wildfire. The Empire's rulers dismissed his fear at first, calling him weak, but the recordings from the battle silenced them. The images of black warships cutting through their cruisers could not be denied. The council demanded answers. Spies and informants were sent to gather intelligence. They wanted to know the truth. And soon, whispers began to reach their ears. Rumors spoke of an expedition to Mars many years ago. Rumors of something buried deep beneath the red sands. Rumors that humans had uncovered something ancient. The truth of the human secret did not begin with war, but with curiosity. Long before the Empire noticed Earth, human explorers had landed on Mars. At first, they searched only for signs of life, for traces of water and soil that could prove the planet once lived. But during one mission, their drills struck something unexpected. Not rock. Not ice. Metal. Beneath the sands, buried for ages, lay the ruins of a structure that could not be natural. It was far too complex, far too precise. The humans dug deeper, uncovering walls of black alloy, etched with glowing lines and strange symbols. At first, they thought it was a meteor, but soon they realized it was a vault. A vault left behind by an ancient race. Humanity had found a relic of the past, a secret older than their species. Scientists and engineers rushed to study it. Governments tried to keep it quiet, hiding the discovery from the public. They feared panic, they feared rivals, but above all, they feared the power locked inside. Inside the vault, they found machines, strange and silent, their design far beyond human knowledge. They found weapons broken into pieces, engines that hummed with energy even after thousands of years. Most of all, they found data crystals, filled with patterns and codes that no human computer could fully read. At first, progress was slow. Humans struggled to understand the alien technology. It was like handing stone tools to a child and asking them to rebuild a starship. But humanity had one gift that the Empire never understood: stubbornness. Humans did not give up. Piece by piece, they studied the ruins. They tore apart the machines, rebuilt them with their own parts, tested again and again until something worked. Many experiments failed. There were accidents, explosions, entire labs destroyed. But each failure taught them more. Over decades, the pieces began to fit together. What humans could not copy, they adapted. What they could not adapt, they replaced with their own inventions. Slowly, from the ruins of Mars, humanity created something new. Not pure alien technology. Not pure human science. But a fusion of both. That was the birth of the warships. The Empire had no idea. While they laughed at humans sending small satellites into orbit, Earth was secretly building titans in the dark. They mined asteroids for metals, constructed hidden shipyards far from their planet, and tested weapons in silence. The humans worked together in secret, governments uniting in ways they never had before. Fear of the Empire, and greed for power, drove them forward. And when the first black warship left the shipyard, humanity changed forever. The Alien Council did not want to believe the rumors, but the evidence was clear. The warships bore markings not of human design. The weapons used principles the Empire itself had never mastered. The commander who survived the first battle spoke before the council. "They have something old," he said. "Something from before us. And they made it stronger." The chamber grew silent. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's leaders felt fear. They remembered ancient legends, stories told by scholars of civilizations that came before, civilizations wiped away by time. Could it be that humans had found the weapons of those forgotten races? If so, the galaxy was standing on the edge of a new war. On Earth, the truth was known only to a few. The common people saw rockets and space stations, but they did not know the secret war being prepared above them. The leaders of humanity had decided to wait, to hide their strength until the right moment. They knew the Empire was watching, waiting to crush them. So they built their weapons in silence, waiting for the day when the galaxy would learn the truth. And that day had come. The battle near Jupiter was not an accident. It was a test. Humanity had revealed just enough to make the Empire afraid, but not enough to show all their cards. The black warships were only the beginning. Deep in hidden shipyards, more were being built. Stronger, faster, deadlier. Humanity was not simply defending itself. Humanity was preparing to rise. The alien commander who witnessed the warships understood this better than anyone. He could still see the glowing cannons, the drones tearing apart his fighters, the cold voice of the human message, "Leave now, or be destroyed." Those words echoed in his mind every night. He knew the Empire could not ignore this threat. They would attack again, harder than before. But he also knew something else. The humans had not shown everything. They had secrets still locked away, deeper than the ruins on Mars, secrets the galaxy was not ready to face. As the Empire debated in their Grand Council, as spies rushed to find more answers, the galaxy began to change. Other alien species, long oppressed by the Empire, began to whisper. If humans could fight back, maybe others could too. The Empire had ruled for centuries through fear, but now fear had turned against them. And the humans, once dismissed as weak, had become the spark of rebellion. In the quiet halls of Earth, scientists continued their work. New engines roared to life in testing grounds hidden in the void. New weapons hummed with power older than stars. Humanity was no longer waiting to be prey. They were preparing to hunt. The Empire still did not fully understand what humans had uncovered. They believed it was just old technology, just scraps of a dead race. But the humans knew better. The vault on Mars was only the first. There were more ruins, more secrets, scattered across the solar system, waiting to be found. And humanity was determined to unlock them all. The Empire's council chamber was silent as the recordings played again and again. The black warships of Earth moved across the screen, their cannons glowing, their drones cutting through fighters like they were made of paper. Alien lords who once laughed at humanity now sat frozen, their faces pale with fear. The destruction of their cruisers was undeniable. The voice of the humans still echoed in their minds. Leave now, or be destroyed. Never in the Empire's long history had such words been spoken to them. Never had a young species dared to challenge their rule. The council argued for hours, their voices rising in anger and panic. Some demanded immediate retaliation, others warned of disaster if they rushed. But beneath all the shouting was one truth that none of them could deny. The humans had changed the balance of the galaxy. News spread quickly, faster than the Empire could control it. Fleets whispered to each other, soldiers talked in secret, traders carried stories across the stars. Everywhere, the name of humanity was spoken with awe and fear. On distant worlds enslaved by the Empire, whispers of rebellion began. If Earth can fight back, maybe we can too, they said in hidden chambers. Species who had suffered under the Empire's iron rule for centuries now dared to hope. The humans were more than just another race, they were a spark in the darkness. But the Empire was not ready to admit weakness. Their propaganda machines worked day and night, spreading lies. They claimed the battle near Jupiter was exaggerated, that the recordings were faked, that the humans had used tricks. But soldiers who had survived told a different story. They spoke of beams of light that cut through cruisers in seconds. They spoke of black ships that ignored their weapons. And they spoke of the voice that promised destruction if they did not leave. The Empire could not silence them all. Fear began to spread not only among the people they ruled, but inside their own fleets. Captains questioned their orders. Officers wondered if the Empire's power was truly eternal. And in that fear, cracks began to appear. Far away on Earth, humanity watched this unfold with careful eyes. Their leaders knew the Empire would not retreat forever. They would regroup, plan, and strike again. But humanity also knew something else. The first battle had planted fear in the Empire's heart, and fear was more powerful than any weapon. In hidden shipyards, new warships were being built. Scientists worked without rest, unlocking more secrets from the ruins of Mars and other ancient sites. The humans were preparing for the storm they knew was coming. But they also understood that their victory had already changed the galaxy. For the first time, the Empire was no longer untouchable. In the Empire's capital, the supreme ruler sat alone, watching the recordings. His eyes narrowed as he studied every detail of the human warships. He had ruled for centuries, crushing every enemy, destroying every rebellion. But now his empire trembled. He whispered to himself, "How did they build this? Who gave them this power?" He did not believe humans had done it alone. He was convinced that some other ancient force was helping them. And he swore he would find the truth, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, on the outer edges of the galaxy, alien rebels began to make moves. Small uprisings sparked on forgotten worlds. Armies that had once given up hope now fought again, their courage renewed by Earth's victory. They believed humanity was the key, the symbol of resistance against tyranny. They spread human words like fire, "We fight when no one else dares." But not everyone celebrated. Some feared humanity just as much as they feared the Empire. To them, humans were too dangerous, too reckless. If they could rebuild ancient weapons, what else could they do? Would they become saviors, or conquerors? The galaxy held its breath, unsure of what future was coming. In secret, some alien governments began reaching out to humans. Small signals were sent across space, hidden messages offering alliances. They wanted protection, or perhaps they simply wanted to survive when the Empire fell. Humanity received these signals, but their leaders stayed silent. For now, their focus was survival. For now, their eyes were only on the Empire. The Empire could feel their grip slipping. Fear spread like poison through their fleets and colonies. Soldiers began asking dangerous questions. Civilians began doubting their rulers. And all of it came from one small planet that the Empire had once dismissed as primitive. The supreme ruler summoned his war council. "We cannot allow this infection to spread," he said. "If other species believe humanity can win, rebellions will rise. The galaxy will burn. We must crush Earth completely, no matter the cost." His generals bowed, but their eyes betrayed doubt. They had seen the recordings too. They knew what human warships could do. They knew that defeating them would not be easy. Yet none dared to speak their fear aloud. Orders were given. A new armada would be raised, larger than any the Empire had sent before. They would return to Earth with overwhelming force. They would destroy humanity before its secrets spread further. But as the council left the chamber, some generals whispered among themselves. "What if we fail?" one asked quietly. "What if the humans are even stronger than they showed?" Another answered with grim certainty. "Then the Empire we know is finished." On Earth, humanity continued to prepare. Soldiers trained in silence. Pilots learned to control new machines. Engineers worked day and night in hidden stations. They knew the Empire would come. They knew the storm was near. But unlike the aliens who feared them, humanity did not fear the Empire anymore. For the first time in their history, they believed they could stand against the giants of the galaxy. And in the shadows of their warships, the humans smiled. They knew what the Empire did not. The black warships revealed at Jupiter were only the beginning. Stronger ships were coming. Deadlier weapons were waiting. And when the Empire returned with all its might, humanity would be ready. Across the galaxy, fear spread, but so did hope. The Empire was no longer unbreakable. Humanity had proved it. And in that moment, the galaxy itself began to change. The Empire's greatest armada gathered in the cold dark beyond the stars. Thousands of ships assembled, stretching across the void like a storm of fire and steel. It was the largest fleet ever sent against a single world. The supreme ruler himself had given the command, Earth must be destroyed, no matter the cost. The Empire could not allow a primitive race to hold such power. If humanity survived, others would rise, and the Empire's reign would crumble. For weeks the armada traveled in silence, their engines burning as they crossed the Black Sea of space. Soldiers whispered nervously in their barracks. Officers spoke in low voices. They all remembered the recordings from Jupiter. They all remembered how human warships had erased cruisers in seconds. Fear sat heavy in their hearts, but orders were orders. When the fleet finally reached the outer edge of the solar system, the commander of the Armada stood tall on his bridge. His voice was sharp and cold. "We will not underestimate them again. Strike with everything. Leave nothing standing." The order echoed through the Armada. Weapons powered up, fighters launched, engines roared. The invasion had begun. Humanity was ready. Near Saturn's rings, hidden among the swirling rocks of ice and stone, the black warships waited. More than before. Bigger than before. The humans had been building in silence, preparing for this moment. The commander of the human fleet watched from his flagship, his eyes calm but hard. "They are coming," he said. "Hold position. Let them come to us." Outside, Saturn's rings glittered, casting long shadows across the void. The alien fleet approached in tight formation, their weapons glowing, their numbers overwhelming. By sheer size, they should have crushed anything in their path. But size was not enough against what humanity had become. The first wave of alien fighters broke forward, thousands of small craft racing ahead to overwhelm the humans. The black warships did not move. They waited in silence, their cannons still cold. The alien commander laughed. "They fear us. They hide behind their walls." But then the trap was sprung. From the rings themselves, hidden drones awakened. Hundreds, then thousands, swarmed out like shadows, cloaked in the ice and dust. They tore into the alien fighters before they even reached the warships. Explosions filled the void, ships shattered, pilots screamed into the void as their craft vanished in fire. Within minutes, half the fighter wave was gone. The alien commander's smile faded. He ordered the cruisers to fire. Plasma bolts and missiles rained toward the human fleet. The black ships finally moved. Engines flared, and with ghost-like speed they shifted between the asteroids. Weapons that had slept now roared awake. Beams of blue light cut across the void, tearing through cruisers like paper. Explosions lit Saturn's rings, breaking rocks into dust and fire. The battle had begun in full. On the human flagship, the captain stood tall. "Target their flagships. Show them we do not bow." Cannons charged, drones swarmed, and human warships advanced. For every human ship, 10 alien ships came against them. But the humans did not break. Their weapons cut through the enemy with terrifying precision. Every shot counted, every blast destroyed. Alien ships exploded one after another, their wreckage scattering into the rings. The Empire had never faced such resistance. The Armada's commander shouted desperately, "Surround them! Crush them!" But it was not so simple. The humans fought like no enemy the Empire had ever known. They used the rings as cover, weaving between ice and rock, striking from shadows, then vanishing before the counterstrike. Their drones moved like a living storm, overwhelming fighters, disabling weapons, tearing engines apart. For every human loss, 5 alien ships fell. Still, the Empire pressed forward, their numbers endless. For hours the battle raged, fire lighting the darkness, wreckage spinning into the rings. Saturn became a graveyard of steel. Both sides bled, but humanity did not fall. On the bridge of the flagship, the human captain gave a new order. "Release the core cannons." Deep within the black warships, power built. A soundless hum grew until it filled the void. Then beams of pure energy, brighter than any star, erupted. They cut through the heart of the alien fleet, destroying dozens of ships in a single strike. The aliens cried out in horror. They had never seen such power, not even in their empire's greatest weapons. Panic spread. Captains hesitated, soldiers faltered. Some ships broke formation, trying to flee, but the human fleet showed no mercy. They hunted them down one by one, fire chasing them into the shadows. The Armada's commander stood in disbelief. His fleet, the largest the Empire had ever built, was being destroyed before his eyes. He slammed his fists against the console. It cannot be. They are only humans. But deep inside, he knew the truth. Humanity was no longer weak. Humanity was no longer prey. They had become something greater. The tide of the battle turned fully when the human flagship moved forward, leading the charge. Its cannons burned with light, its drones swarmed in endless waves, and its engines carried it like a phantom through the fire. Alien ships fell in its path, one after another, until none dared to face it directly. Hours later, the void grew quiet. The last alien ship exploded in fire, its wreckage drifting slowly into the rings. The human fleet held position, their black warships scarred but unbroken. The silence of victory filled the stars. On the flagship's bridge, the captain finally spoke. His voice was calm but carried across the comms of every ship. This is our galaxy too. Remember it. Across the battlefield, survivors of the Empire listened, their hearts filled with fear. For the first time, they had been defeated, not by an old rival, not by an ancient enemy, but by a race they once called primitive. The news would spread. The Empire had lost. Humanity had won. In that silence, one truth echoed through the stars. The age of human fear was over. The age of human power had begun. The battle at Saturn was over, but its echo spread like thunder through the galaxy. Across every world, in every fleet, and in every hidden colony the same words were spoken. The Empire had been defeated, and it was humans who had done it. The news could not be silenced, no matter how much the Empire tried. Survivors of the battle whispered the truth, traitors carried fragments of recordings, rebels shouted it in the streets. Entire systems trembled as the message spread, for the empire that had once seemed eternal had finally bled. Humanity had stood against the storm and survived, and in surviving, they had changed everything. On Earth the people gathered around screens, watching the images of broken alien ships drifting in Saturn's rings. For the first time in history, the human race looked beyond their world with pride instead of fear. They knew the Empire would not forget this defeat, but they also knew something greater. Humanity was no longer prey. The leaders of Earth met in secret chambers, their voices low but firm. Some argued for peace, saying the Empire would return stronger than ever and humans must prepare to negotiate. Others argued for war, saying the Empire would never stop hunting them, so humanity must strike first. In the end, they agreed on one thing. The galaxy had to know the truth. A message would be sent, not only to the Empire but to every race across the stars. The humans would not hide, they would not kneel, they would not be forgotten. Deep inside the human flagship, engineers worked to build the signal array. Satellites were launched, signals amplified, networks opened. When all was ready, the captain of the fleet stood before the camera. His face was calm, his eyes sharp, his voice steady. He spoke not only for Earth but for all of humanity. We are the children of Earth. You called us primitive, weak, unworthy. You thought we would kneel forever. But we do not kneel. We do not bow. We fight. And when the galaxy came to break us, we endured. When the Empire came to destroy us, we stood. You look upon our ships and ask how such things exist. They exist because we would not die quietly. They exist because we chose to rise. We are not slaves. We are not prey. This is our galaxy too. Remember it. The message was broadcast across every channel the humans could reach. It spread like fire, unstoppable, uncaged. On distant worlds, slaves lifted their heads in hope. On rebel planets, armies raised their banners higher. In the fleets of the Empire, soldiers stared in silence, their faith in their rulers shaking. The supreme ruler of the Empire sat in his throne, his claws digging into the arms of his seat as he watched the message. His rage was silent but deep, burning hotter than any sun. Never before had anyone dared speak such words to him. Never before had anyone survived defying his empire. His generals stood around him, none daring to meet his eyes. They had seen the defeat at Saturn. They had seen their fleets destroyed. And now the humans spoke boldly to the entire galaxy. The ruler's voice was cold as the void. If humanity thinks themselves free, then we will burn their world to ash. If they think themselves strong, then we will crush them with every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We will show the galaxy that resistance is death. But even as he spoke, he knew something had changed. Fear had entered his empire. Doubt had spread. And no matter how many ships he sent, no matter how many battles he fought, he could not erase what humanity had done. The galaxy had seen it. They had all seen it. Humanity had stood against the Empire and survived. Across the stars, species who had once been silent began to speak. Secret meetings took place, alliances were whispered, rebellions were planned. They looked at Earth not only as a fighter but as a symbol. If humans could rise, so could they. The Empire's iron grip was loosening, link by link, and it began with one small planet the Empire once thought worthless. On Earth, the people listened as their captain's message played again and again. They cheered, they wept, they shouted with pride. Children looked to the stars not with fear but with fire in their eyes. The black warships returned home to orbit, scarred but unbroken, guardians of a world that had become something more than just a home. Humanity had taken its first step into the galaxy not as explorers, not as wanderers, but as warriors who would not be erased. Yet even in victory, they knew the war was not over. The Empire would return, stronger, angrier, more determined. Battles still lay ahead, worlds would still burn, blood would still be spilled. But humanity was ready. They had faced the storm and survival had forged them into something the galaxy had never seen before. In the quiet after the battle, the captain of the human fleet stood alone on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the stars. He thought of the message sent, the enemies made, the allies yet unknown. He whispered softly, "They will come again, and we will be waiting." The stars stretched out before him, endless and full of danger, but also full of promise. Humanity's story was no longer bound to one world. It was written now in fire across the galaxy, a story of defiance, a story of survival, a story of rising when no one believed they could. The final message was clear, not only to the Empire but to all who listened: humanity had awakened, and nothing would ever be the same.